that I started going back into that after the pandemic, and I've been quite busy doing it. But definitely, like, the majority of my work is mixing. Like, everything, like 90% of what I record, I mix as well, and I still get stuff sent from all over the place to mix. So that takes like the majority of my time.
Yeah, I've been through similar thought processes. I don't know if I've ever been busy enough only at mixing to just only be a mixer, but like I've had a thought process of being like, you know what, if I could just only do mixing, I'd be happy. And then after a period of mostly mixing, I realized like and then doing a production, I realized like, oh, I need a little bit of this production in my life because it ignites that spark. But on the other hand, too much production is hard, like you said, because it's like it just eats you up.
Yeah,
I feel like we're very similar like that, in like, a little bit perfectionistic, and whether they're paying for the time or not, you're going to spend that time because you like. I resonated with that so hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
I mean, your name is in this, and you don't want to put something out that you're not happy with.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as you can, obviously. But yeah, I feel like sometimes jealous of like people that just think like, or that they can just find their niche, like you're saying, like, I just want to mix. I definitely have been through moments where I said like, oh, I'm happy to just be a mixing. I'm doing this every day and I'm loving it. But then I go back, it's like, oh, well, like, I wish I could like be in a room with a band. And then I go to a room with a band and I'm just like, oh, this is incredible. Like, I have here like 15 musicians in the live room and this is like the best day of my life.
It gives you like a life, It gives you this like, there's a word in Yiddish that I'm thinking of that I don't know what the equivalent is in English, but it's just like this zest,
Mm-hmm.
It gives you this zest.
I mean, I don't know, but I'm trying to understand.
It's in Yiddish they say it gives you chayas, it gives you like life,
Okay.
Or in Hebrew, but but anyways, but like there's something about that, when you're with that many musicians and it's happening and it's live, like you're saying.
Or just anything. Like, I feel like something that actually stuck to me from my days working with Claude Kelly is that he always made it fun, Like, and at some point he told me, it's like, yeah, if we're not having fun, then this is just work. Like, this is not what it's supposed to be like for us, Like, we can have all the drama outside, but like while we're working, we're doing this because we love it. So if you're not, then, clearly you're doing something wrong. And to me, like, I feel like I love mixing, I love recording, I love producing, I love playing, I love writing. So it's like, yeah, maybe I won't be Manny Marroquin, I would be Serban, but like, I can do all these other things. It keeps me entertained, it keeps me happy, it keeps me creative. And you have different sort of outputs of that creativity, So at least to me, that seems to work.
Yeah, and I guess you have to allocate different amounts of your times and energies to those different aspects. And there are seasons where maybe you're doing a bit more mixing, and there are seasons where you're doing a bit more producing or whatever. It just kind of depends.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, it's about finding that right balance. I guess I'm trying to figure that out, but it's.
I mean, I'm still trying to figure it out as well. But it's just like I kind of like put it. It's like, okay, this is my calendar. It's not like if I'm pursuing a project myself, then it's different. But if it's just things that come through me, whether I'm getting called to record or to mix or produce, it's just like if the time is available in my calendar and I am excited, like I'm interested in doing the project, then that's great. It's not like I'm going to say, it's like, oh no, I wanted to focus in producing this time of the year or like anything like that. It's just like, I don't know, there has to be kind of like an ebb and flow to it that feels still pretty organic and natural, I feel.
Yeah, totally. I want to shift focus a little bit and just ask you a little bit about some of the other artists you've worked with. Primarily Paul McCartney, because if I see a Beatle, I'm automatically going to ask about it because I'm obsessed with the Beatles. Tell me a little bit about your experience working with Paul.
Yeah, so I worked with him twice or in two projects while I was an assistant gravatar. The first time we were working on that tribute to Buddy Holly called Rave on Buddy, and Paul was one of the artists. So his producer from back then, David Kahn, he had one of the private studios in the building, so he was doing all his projects there. And I used to be usually the assistant on his sessions, and then also the engineer is this great engineer who I also learned a lot from him. His name is Roy Hendrickson. I also used to assist him when he was working in the studio. So it was like both people that request me come into this project, so that just got me in automatically. And yeah, we're just there for one day recording one song. And I remember I got there like 8 hours earlier because I just needed to make sure that everything was like spotless. Like every cable was like perfectly. There wasn't a mess. Everything worked perfectly. It was like I just went extra for that thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was amazing. Like he came and he introduced himself to me. He's like, "Hi, I'm Paul." It's like, "Yeah, I've seen you around in like cities and like everything." You know, it's like in dreams. But yeah, he was super cool. He was super energetic. His band is incredible. They're obviously fantastic musicians and just really good people. You can tell that they had a really good time together. And yeah, like I think like a funny story about that is like, so I went to like raise the height of the microphone where he was singing. After I do, he says, "Hey, come here, Fernando." I like come close. And he says, "No, come a little bit closer." I get like awkwardly close and he starts touching my hair. I guess he saw in my face. I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" And he was like, "Oh, you had like a fuzz in your hair, but it's good." I was just like, "Oh shit, thank you, Sir Paul McCartney." So it was like pretty bizarre. And then, you know, like, so yeah, we did
Sounds like a pretty casual guy.
That's the thing. Like I honestly felt, I mean, this was maybe 2011, 2010, 12 in those 2 years. So, you know, he's a grown man, you know, but I definitely felt like I was working with like a 20-year-old Beatle. Like his energy was incredible. He was dancing around, he was joking around, he was laughing the whole time. It was really, really special. And yeah, so we did one take and that's it. They came to listen to it. They liked it. Then they went out to like the live room to have the whole band sing around one microphone. So, you know, we changed the pattern of the microphone, we adjusted the gain, and the whole band did one take. And in between the vocal lines, Paul was really like dancing around the microphone and around the studio. So everything was just like so positive. And after that, they decided to do like an alternate version of the song. So we moved the microphone back to his boots, changed the pattern back to like cardio and the whole thing. And I'm gonna say that I forgot to change the mic pre of the thing, though, because, you know, I'm gonna take the blame for it. But, you know, obviously I wasn't the engineer, but I feel like as an assistant, you should be a step ahead, and I should have noticed that, you know. And as Paul starts singing on this next version, it starts distorting. I'm just like, fuck, that's it. I'm never working in this industry again. I start freaking out, and the producer says, no, don't change it. And it became this happy mistake that I just started distorting, and it gave it this extra rock vibe that everyone loved. And that's actually the version that they decided to go with for the thing. But I'm not taking credit over a production fact. Yeah, I'm not taking credit over like it being a good thing, that it was like, oh, this was a magical thing. I'm taking credit over fucking up and like making a mistake that then someone else saw an opportunity in it.
That's amazing though, because I feel like you know, the Beatles weren't perfectionists in the studio. They were just kind of like very much happy to keep, you know, those like happy accidents and kind of do weird things, and you know, that was always the vibe. And it sounds like Paul is like a very happy-go-lucky kind of guy. It's amazing to hear that he's that joyous, you know, in the studio, like, I don't know, however many years into his career, 50 years at the time.
Yeah, and he was killing it, man. Like, I mean, those lead vocals that he sung live, they were the keepers. Like, everything they did was keeper. It was perfect, you know? Like, you can tell they're a super tight band, and they're like, it was incredible. And, you know, like, later on, I also worked in another album with him, like, actually one of his albums, the Kisses on the Bottom, I think it's called. That is him playing, like, standards, and it's with Diana Krall's band. So obviously that felt very different, like from him seeing like kind of like a rocky side of things to being this as more like jazzy, you know, like a different style. But yeah, I mean, he was still like always a lovely guy, and yeah, I feel like very, very honored and blessed to have a chance to even just be in that room, you know, even though I wasn't like a big part, like I didn't have like a main role, just being there as part of the thing was incredible.
Yeah, that's so cool. It must have been so neat to be like, I don't know, at Avatar at that time, kind of just, you know, seeing all the who's who of New York, you know, just being in that spot, you know. I feel like that it was probably a weird time to be in the music industry, because I feel like that exactly when all those studios started closing down.
Yes.
But at least you got a glimpse of that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I was definitely, I do not regret a single day that I spent in that place. Actually, yeah. I do regret something from that first session with Paul. Like, I've always been very professional, so I never asked for photos or anything. And at the end of the session, they took a photo with us. And like, Paul is like sitting on a high stool with his arms like this, and his arms are on top of my head because I'm like crouching. And no. I don't have that photo. That photo exists, and I don't have any photos from the session. And every day I kick my ass because of that. It's just like the photo existed. I didn't ask to take the photo. I just needed to ask the photographers, like, please just send me and it kills me, to be honest. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's
It's a
painful.
bummer. Well,
So yeah, if Paul McCartney, you're listening to this podcast, please like contact Ben. Maybe he can send it over.
man, if Paul McCartney's listening to this podcast, we're in a good place.
Yeah, man.
Let me tell you. Yeah, so just to circle back to the more technical side of things, is there any, pieces of gear or any tools that you use on a daily basis to kind of keep you inspired and being fresh in the studio? Tools, plugins, instruments, anything that like inspires you?
Well, actually, I do have a new toy that I got that I've been playing with, and I kind of like does that. Like, it keeps me inspired. It's just like this dude. It's a microcosm hologram. A friend of mine told me about it, and it's pretty much just like time-based effects, and it's the trippiest thing ever. It's so special. It's definitely really hard to like use it, or like to get to the point where you can get exactly what you want out of it. So far for me, it's being more like, oh, I'm just gonna run this through this and start running through presets, and when I find something, I'll start tweaking it until it sounds cool. And I've run into a lot of really cool shit. And yeah, so I've been using that quite a bit lately.
Yeah.
And yeah, I started like getting more like guitar pedals and just introducing that into like my mixing side of things, Like I feel like there's all these creative tools, like, like EQs and compression, all that stuff. They're great inside the box, and I have a lot outside the box as well. But I don't know, there's something about like having knobs that make weird sounds and things that feels like more in the moment to me, and I find it more inspiring than just tweaking one knob at a time in a computer with a mouse.
Yeah, it's tactile and it's like it reacts instantly. And a lot of people have talked about using guitar pedals. Maybe that's something worth thinking about. I know like Dave Pensado always talks about how he's obsessed with using like guitar pedals. It's like the cheapest way to kind of like add a vibe to a track or something,
And there's so many cool things, man. It's like yeah, I just went deep a little bit. Like I just got this pedal. It's like it's called the Plasma Plus. The Plus is by Game Changer Audio. There's literally like a sustain pedal that they designed for guitars or for any source. So when you hit the pedal, it literally looks like a piano sustain pedal. When you step on it, it creates like a live loop of things. So you can create all this like super drastic sustain that you can adjust like the frequency response, and I don't know, just like weird shit, right? Like, because we all have the same plugins, we all have the same tools at this point. So it's just how to use them. And if you find something that is like different, I feel like it's already helping you be a little bit more special or stand out in a different way. So that's kind of like what I've been trying to do.
Do you find that the guitar is like a big inspiration when you're doing productions? Like, is your guitar playing an important part of how you produce?
I would say yes, because it's like the instrument that I'm the most comfortable with, So whatever they mention, like I can just do it on the guitar. Versus if I'm grabbing like a synth or like some keyboard or anything else, like it might take me like a second to get there. At least as far when it comes to like figuring out harmonies or like parts and all that, like a guitar is super easy for me to do all that. But I love like playing with synths. I have a couple of Moogs and a couple of other things that I really love. And I find them very inspiring when you're in the production side of things.
Yeah, there's something about a real instrument or an instrument that makes a sound by itself without having to like go into the computer and
and same thing going back to that, like like some of the virtual instruments sound incredible, like it's a very small difference, but like like I have every single software version of a Juno that you can imagine and a bunch of Moogs, but having like the real thing where I can like react like live without having like two hands singing a knob or like doing all this stuff, it just makes it so much faster. And being able to work fast, I think, is really important. You don't want to like spend so much time trying to find something that then you lose your train of thought, and that creative moment that was happening is gone because you're trying to find a sound.
Yeah, I find that does happen a lot actually in the DAW, when you're just like looking for a kind of sound, and then you go through a couple presets, and then you get distracted, and then it's like, what was I after to begin with? It's like, it's not fun. So maybe having a couple pieces of, whether it's synths or whatever, real things that can kind of...
Yeah, I feel especially with synths, because I feel like synths are such a huge part of our industry right now,
Right.
And
the 80s sound.
Yeah, and I know how to obviously get to a sound, but it's not like my forte, So I definitely go through times where I have like a sound in my head. I'm trying to find like some